With Thor, yet another hit for the fans, Marvel wasted no time introducing their next character to grace the screen. This time, it was the most important Avenger of all, the first Avenger. Captain America first burst onto the scene in 1941 and was a patriotic reaction to the events surrounding World War II.
Adolf Hitler was there, so I figured, well, he's a live one on his own brutal way. He'll be the villain and gets himself a patriotic guy to be his foil. So we designed Captain America.
You know, the message was loud and clear. It showed Cap right on the cover, punching Hitler in the jaw. So there was nothing unclear about the message of the comic book.
Given his long-running success in the comics, the character's story seemed a natural for the big screen. And finally, in June 2010, comic fans and movie audiences got the words they were waiting to hear. Marvel's Captain America film was in production.
Whether it's building a metal suit, or exposed to gamma rays, or coming from another world called Asgard, the notion of a superpowered human started with Steve Rogers, Captain America.
Keeping a watchful eye over the Captain's legacy was director Joe Johnston.
Yes, exactly. If you open the compass and set it down, Chris, then we sort of go in a map, and you close it, realize that her picture's on camera. Okay. Close it. It'll work.
Johnston first worked as an effects artist on such iconic films as Star Wars and Raiders of the Lost Ark. His success on these classic pictures propelled him into the director's chair for such respected films as The Rocketeer and October's Sky.
He's made a broad range of movies, but one thing that they all have in common is they have a big heart. There's usually a very personal and emotional story at the core of it. And of all the characters in the Marvel Universe, if there's ever a film that we need a filmmaker who can tell the story of someone with a big heart, it's Captain America.
I wanted to make Captain America because he is not really a superhero. He's the kid next door who has this process performed on him, and he becomes the world's greatest athlete.
Like the other Marvel films before it, Captain America's success hinged on finding an actor that embodied the special traits of the famous character.
I went and met with Joe and Kevin and Steven, and they sat me down and gave a really good pitch of who this character was. He's a good man, and an honest man, a noble man, and as a result of those, virtues, he's given this gift, and he's able to kind of balance this new life he has with his old set of morals.
Do you want to kill Nazis?
Is this a test?
Yes.
I don't want to kill anyone. I don't like bullies. I don't care where they're from.
Well, there are already so many big men fighting this war. Maybe what we need now is a little guy, huh?
Marvel was confronted with a challenge: how to turn Chris Evans into a skinny Steve Rogers.
We knew that the movie wouldn't work if you didn't buy Skinny Steve at the top. We're going to spend the whole first act with a scrawny version of Steve Rogers before he gets chosen for the program and undergoes the procedure that turns him into Captain America. And if that looked fake, if that didn't feel right, you would lose it entirely.
Knowing what we wanted Chris to look like when he came out of the pod, fully transformed, we knew that he had to start working out right away. And he spent probably 3 months getting into that shape. We also knew that the entire first act of the film had to look like he weighed 100 pounds and was 5'7". Obviously, once he started working out, there's no going back.
Steve Rogers is supposed to be 98 pounds. He's very tiny. And then when he turns into Captain America, Chris Evans looks pretty remarkable with how he worked out and where he took his body to. So that's a tough one that we've had to do a lot of reference shooting. There's always a balance of trying to see, okay, what will work and what won't.
We sat down at the very beginning and we said, well, it's not really a visual effects movie, is it? Like, nah, it's just a movie. It's a movie. It's a buddy pick, and it's a superhero, but he doesn't really have that many superpowers. He jumps a bit, he's stronger, but it's not really many visual effects. And then you turn around and we're probably going to be, 12, 13, 1,400 shots, taking the original photography of Chris Evans, thinning him down, and just by frame, painstakingly reshaping his entire body for the first third of the movie.
We discussed all sorts of things. Are they different actors? No. Well, do you do a Tom Hanks Castaway thing? Well, our schedule wouldn't allow time for Chris to get that skinny and bulk back up again. So we started looking at a number of effects processes to get it done. All CG came up. We just didn't feel it was there. It wasn't right, and there was enough of that creepy factor that you would never be able to fall in love with it. And the goal was to make the audience fall in love with the character before he gets any muscles, before he puts on a costume, before he holds a shield. And in early meetings we had with Chris Evans, it was very important to him and it was important to us that it be him, that it be his performance, that entire section of the film.
I think if you get to know who Steve Rogers is before he becomes Captain America, that's what will make for a good character, that's what will make a good movie.
We did a few proof of concept tests, and I remember showing a section of the film, early rough cut footage of the rebirth scene, where there were a few shots of Chris skinny, gets onto a table, goes into the pod opens up, reveals the muscles, and the people I was showing to, how did you add those muscles? That was amazing. What's that effect? How'd you add those muscles? And I went, that's not the effect. The effect is the skinny version. They go, really? That is kind of when we all looked at each other and went, it's gonna work.
How'd you feel?
As much as possible is Chris basically shrunk. When that didn't work for technical reasons, we photographed a body double, what we call a skinny Steve, an English guy named Downey.
Chris is of a kind of heroic build and he needs to be a scrawny loser. That's where I come in. He'll decide how he wants to do the scene and I'll watch him do it 4 or 5 times and then I do that and try and get an exact copy.
And cut. Good.
You do one with Chris, you do one with a double, you do one with a clean plate. Sometimes we do one with Chris and slide a green screen in behind him. Sometimes we do one with the double and put tracking markers on his face. Frankly, because we wanted to give the effects houses as much information as they needed, because we knew the process wouldn't be easy, and we knew that from shot to shot they'd have to vary their technique. So we essentially covered every technique possible to give them all the ammunition they need.
You still recognize that is Chris Evans, and yet it's unfathomable that is half the man that he really ends up being in the movie.
What happened to you? I joined the army.
Marvel was now faced with the daunting task of creating Captain America's iconic suit.
One of the biggest problems that we'll have as concept artists is that we're working in sort of a vacuum of how do we make this guy look as great as possible? And that doesn't necessarily take into consideration the real actor's body type. It becomes a difficult challenge, and I think that a lot of the stuff that we try to do is just make a really amazing looking costume.
Initially, when Captain America becomes Captain America, he's not released to go off and fight right away. He's used kind of as a propaganda tool. He's in this very silly Captain America costume. You know, it's tights.
When you sit down and really step back and look at the Cap costume in the comic books, it's not a real practical costume to try to do. Like, the two things that people always allude to are these bell-bottom pirate boots, which were there for years, and the wings that are on the cowl. And they don't work.
One of the things that suit was particularly interesting for the Marvel guys was to try and actually get a full-on version of Captain America on screen.
Finally got everything I wanted. And I'm wearing tights.
Cap is more than just the red, white, and blue of the United States. He represents sort of the strength going into battle and sort of a confidence of winning, of being on the right side of that conflict.
When we get to the final suit, you do have the stripes, you do have the red, white, and blue, but there are, subtle modulations to try and make it feel real.
That went through a lot of different, stages. Obviously, there's a lot of people involved in making the suit who worked very hard on it, and I would just kind of come in every couple weeks and try a new outfit on, and they would poke and prod and measure and cut, and I'd kind of stay out of it, and then finally they got it where they wanted it, and I think it looks fantastic.
And while off-screen, Marvel's design team was constructing Cap's shield. On-screen, Steve Rogers got some assistance from Howard Stark.
I took the liberty of coming up with some options. This one's fun. She's been fitted with electrical relays that allow you to...
What about this one?
No, that's just a prototype.
What's it made of?
Vibranium. Vibranium is stronger than steel, but 3/4 the weight, which makes it very good in battle.
What do you think?
I think it works.
Makes a bullet feel like a cotton ball. And I invented that.
Dominic did a great job of feeling like, oh, that seems like the loins from which Tony sprung. So that was really satisfying.
As you look closer, you do see that there's bigger ideas at work here. When you see things like the Super Soldier program, suddenly you begin to understand how our whole universe came together and how things like Nick Fury and S.H.I.E.L.D. and the Incredible Hulk and Iron Man can exist in this world.
Almost everything that the military does in the Marvel Universe after that is an attempt to recreate the Super Soldier. We've already seen in the Incredible Hulk, Bruce Banner Emil Blonsky turning into the Hulk, turning into the Abomination, those were all attempts at replicating what Steve Rogers was. General Ross and Emil Blonsky have a discussion about the Super Soldier program.
In WW2, they initiated a sub-program for biotech force enhancement.
Yeah, Super Soldier. Some people, Howard Stark, believe that technology and weaponry and armor is the way to outfit troops. There was another program that believed biology was the way to enhance it. It worked with Steve, hasn't worked since then. And is that because they didn't get the formula right, or is that because there was something inherently special in Steve Rogers that made it work?
The serum amplifies everything that is inside, so good becomes great, bad becomes worse. This is why you were chosen. Because a strong man who has known power all his life may lose respect for that power, but a weak man knows the value of strength and knows compassion.
When we were developing the story for Captain America, we had to use his most iconic villain, the Red Skull.
We first meet him, he's hunting down this thing called the Tesseract, or the Cube. He's interested in tapping into this other life force that has its origins in Norse mythology.
The Tesseract was the jewel of Odin's treasure room.
As we started working on it, we started realizing that it could play across other films as well. We knew that it had cosmic origins, and the only cosmic element that we've introduced this far in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is Thor, is Asgard, is the Nine Realms. So we started saying, what if that's where it came from? So we added sort of a Norse overlay mythology to it to suggest where it came from, how it got here.
Yggdrasil, tree of the world.
Which is where it ties in with the Thor film as well.
Legend tells us one thing, history another. But every now and then we find something that belongs to both.
And as Loki finds his way to Earth in the beginning of the Avengers movie, that would be a hell of an artifact for him to go after and find.
Well, I guess that's worth a look. Well, I guess that's worth a look.
We've ordered the release dates of these movies on purpose, and Captain America flows directly into the Avengers. And it's one of the reasons why the Cap movie is period, is this side of the Marvel universe that we haven't seen before, leading to a sacrifice and to a noble act on Steve's part that causes him to be lost.
Sir.
Take us to the next grid point.
But there's no trace of wreckage.
Just keep looking.
And we soon find him, which is what takes us into modern day with the Avengers.
We thought it best to break it to you slowly.
Break what?
You've been asleep, Cap, for almost 70 years.
What is so great about the Avengers comics is not that it's just a team of superheroes. There are a lot of teams of superheroes. What's great about the Avengers is that they were superheroes in their own comics, in their own mythology that you already knew, that you'd already read, that you're already fans of, and they're all coming together under one title. That's what was brilliant about it. That was so exciting about it. And we wanted to unveil the movie characters the same way. I mean, that had been a what if, that had been a dream scenario for many, many years. And because Iron Man worked and was so successful, they said, what do you have next? You want to do it like that? Great, do that. And we said, holy mackerel, this is going to happen.
In 2010, Marvel went to Comic-Con to unveil to the fans a first look at footage of Thor and Captain America. But fans had no idea what else Marvel was about to reveal.
Do you mind staying a few more minutes for just a second? There is one more thing.
And there came a day unlike any other, when Earth's mightiest heroes found themselves united against a common threat. To fight the foes no single superhero could withstand. On that day, the Avengers were born.
When they walk out, it's going to be the first time they've ever all stood in one place.
Samuel L. Jackson, Nick Fury.
It is my great pleasure to introduce my right-hand man, Agent Coulson, Clark Gregg. My right-hand woman, you know her as Black Widow, Scarlett Johansson. The God of Thunder, Chris Hemsworth. The first Avenger, Captain America, Chris Evans. You know him as Tony Stark. He is Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr.
Playing Clint Barton in the role of Hawkeye, Jeremy Renner. Bruce Banner, Mark Ruffalo. Our director, Joss Whedon.
This cast is more than I could ever have dreamed of working with. My dream team. This is the Avengers.
Casting was enthusiastically supported by excited fans, and production was finally ready to begin.